Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer for July 6th, 2026. We are diving right into some of the most critical global events happening today, weaving together everything from major geopolitical shifts to some truly devastating human crises unfolding around the world. We've got a lot of ground to cover, and the best way to understand these complex, fast-moving stories is to break them down step by step.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The Ankara-NATO Summit. 2. Tensions in the Middle East. 3. Monsoon landslides devastate India. 4. Sudan's deadly cholera outbreak. And 5. Business, heists, and sports.
Starting off with Part 1, the Ankara-NATO Summit and some high-stakes diplomacy.
President Trump has a really packed schedule in Ankara right now. He arrived Tuesday afternoon to meet with Turkish President Erdogan, but Wednesday is where the heavy diplomatic lifting really happens. He has a highly anticipated sit-down with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, the stated focus here from U.S. officials is an urgent push to actually end the war, especially since the battlefield has basically been frozen for the last couple of months. And get this, he's also sitting down with the newly positioned Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara. This is actually their second meeting since Shara's historic visit to the White House last November, which, by the way, was the first visit by a Syrian leader since 1946. It's a huge deal following the ousting of Bashar al-Assad.
What we're seeing here is a massive ideological shift. We're transitioning away from that old model of U.S. dependency toward a demand for real burden sharing. The U.S. ambassador to NATO, Matthew G. Whitaker, made it crystal clear. The U.S. expects allies to step up, immediately, to a strict 5% GDP defense target. I mean, allies have already committed nearly $139 billion in additional defense spending, a lot of it on American-made equipment. But the ultimate goal here is to shift the conventional defense of Europe back to European allies and Canada. The U.S. is basically acknowledging its responsibilities elsewhere as a global superpower and asking Europe to take the reins.
Moving on to Part 2, tensions in the Middle East and the rapidly shifting dynamics there.
Following the late February U.S.-Israeli strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, the sheer scale of the fallout is just immense. Hundreds of thousands of mourners carrying Iranian flags literally filled the streets in the early hours of the morning. Massive crowds have gathered at the Imam Khomeini Mazala Mosque in Tehran. To even accommodate a procession of this size, airspace and roads across Tehran have had to be temporarily shut down, while his coffin is moved toward Mehrabad International Airport. The final burial is scheduled for Thursday over in Mashhad.
Now, looking impartially at the Israeli perspective, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is pushing back hard against some recent media reports. Late last month, Israeli media suggested that President Trump actually restricted Israeli military operations against Hezbollah terror tunnels in southern Lebanon, specifically in the Ali al-Tever Heights, and that Israel had to provide detailed intelligence to get U.S. approval. Well, Netanyahu is calling that narrative entirely fabricated. His exact words? "This is a legend, fake news. He didn't say anything to me about it, and I didn't ask him." He's firmly insisting that Israel operates strictly according to its own security considerations.
Let's pivot to Part 3, monsoon landslides devastating India and the immediate human impact of this extreme weather.
Tragically, 7 people lost their lives in Mumbai in just a single day due to rain-related incidents. 6 of those deaths occurred in a devastating child collapse, and another person tragically died after a tree fell on them. It is an absolutely stark reminder of just how vulnerable our urban infrastructure can be when it's pushed to the brink by extreme weather.
Compounding this disaster, 16 trains had to be completely canceled on the vital Mumbai-Pune rail route. Landslides in the Ghat section, specifically between Takarvati and Monkey Hill, have entirely severed those connections. It's left commuters stranded and authorities scrambling. In one crazy instance, the NDRF literally had to rescue 37 passengers from a stranded private bus near a railway station.
The logistical nightmare facing everyday citizens right now is extensive. The Mumbai-Pune Expressway saw a landslide at the missing link section. Now, one-way traffic to Pune has been restored, but the route back to Mumbai? Still closed. Plus, the road via Tamini Ghat has literally caved in and is totally shut down. Looking to the skies, Mumbai's international airport was forced into a total 1-hour suspension of all runway operations, which of course led to over 330 delays. Authorities have issued a red alert from Mumbai, Thane, and Raigad, advising private offices to just let employees work from home if they possibly can.
Over to Part 4, Sudan's deadly cholera outbreak, which is rapidly turning into a severe health crisis.
According to a Sudanese relief group, the Dar Hamar Emergency Room, 30 deaths have been recorded just since June 20th, in West Kordofan State. To put that into perspective, this is happening in a region where over 200,000 people are already facing a severe, worsening humanitarian crisis because of acute shortages of both food and basic medicine.
And that mortality rate is paired with over 800 active infections in the region. This cholera outbreak is spreading incredibly fast among vulnerable populations, particularly in the Wad Banda and Al Nahud localities. It's truly a race against time for medical groups who are out there trying to contain this disease without the proper supplies.
Finally, Part 5, Business, Heists, and Sports. Our final headlines for the day.
In the aviation sector, we might be looking at a massive shakeup. The 31-year-old British budget airline EasyJet could be going private after a U.S. firm, Castlelake, offered a £5.5 billion buyout. That is a massive 73% premium. Simultaneously, over in cultural news, India and the global arts community are mourning the passing of the legendary folk icon Tijen Bai. It really marks the end of an era for traditional Pandavani storytelling.
Over in the sports world, specifically in the U.S. at the New York/New Jersey Stadium, we witnessed an absolute thriller. Erling Haaland broke a super tense World Cup round of 16 match with 2 late goals in the 79th and 90th minutes, both of them assisted by Andres Schjelderup. This jaw-dropping performance eliminated the 5-time champions Brazil and sent Norway to the quarterfinals for the very first time in their history.
And as a direct result of that shock defeat, Brazilian superstar Neymar announced his immediate retirement from international football. Wow, it's the end of an era. He caps off a brilliant, yet definitely turbulent international career without ever securing that ultimate prize, a World Cup trophy.
So, from shifting global alliances to historic sporting upsets, it really makes you wonder exactly how these stories will continue to ripple outward, doesn't it? Will NATO's strict new funding model actually hold up? How in the world will Brazil rebuild its national team after this? The world is moving fast, but we'll be right here to map it all out for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep asking those big questions. See you next time.